What if the reason she hasn't called, texted, or even liked one of your posts isn't because she's over you, but because she's doing the exact same thing you're doing? What if she's also doing no contact on purpose? You think you're playing chess, but what if she's playing the exact same game and you're both just sitting there waiting to see who breaks first? This is one of the trickiest psychological standoffs in dating. When you go no contact thinking you're in control, thinking she'll chase you, obsess over you, miss you. But days turn to weeks, and instead of blowing up your phone or trying to come back, she disappears too. And that's when the doubt creeps in. What if she's not emotional? What if she doesn't care? Or what if she's mirroring you, using the exact same strategy to make you fold first? This situation messes with your head. It makes you question everything. But there's a reason this happens. And if you don't understand it, you'll play the wrong move and lose all power. What if the reason she hasn't called, texted, or even liked one of your posts isn't because she's over you, but because she's doing the exact same thing you're doing? What if she's also doing no contact on purpose? You think you're playing chess, but what if she's playing the exact same game and both of you are just sitting there waiting to see who breaks first? This is one of those moments where your brain starts spinning. You think you've got a plan. You go no contact, thinking it'll create space, mystery, curiosity. You imagine her sitting there, wondering why you disappeared, obsessing over what she lost, and getting closer and closer to breaking down and messaging you. But as time passes, nothing happens. No text, no missed calls, no breadcrumb to let you know she still cares. And that's when the panic sets in. You start thinking maybe she doesn't care at all. Maybe she moved on faster than you expected. Or maybe, just maybe, she's doing exactly what you're doing. And now the power dynamic has flipped without you even realizing it. Here's what most guys never realize. Women don't just sit there waiting to be pursued anymore. Not in today's world. They've read the same advice you have. They've watched the same videos. They know what no contact is. And the smarter ones know how to use it right back against you, especially if they feel hurt, disrespected, or just unsure about your level of interest. They will use silence as a weapon, and not in a petty or childish way, but in a cold, calculated, self-protective way. She wants to see what happens when she stops trying. She wants to know whether you're emotionally invested or just faking interest until something better comes along. So when you go no contact and she goes quiet too, it might not be because she doesn't care. It might be because she wants to see if you care. And this is where most men completely misread the situation. They go from feeling strong and in control to suddenly feeling confused, anxious, and rejected. 1 week in, they're good. 2 weeks in, they're spiraling. They start checking her socials, wondering why she hasn't watched their story, wondering if her silence means she's over it, or if she's hurting and just hiding it well. And the longer the silence drags on, the more your brain starts playing tricks on you. You start romanticizing the past. You start looking for signs. You even convince yourself that maybe you waited too long, and now you've lost her for good. But let me tell you something. If she's emotionally invested in you and she hasn't reached out, that silence is not a lack of interest. It's a calculated move. You see, emotional standoffs are real, and no contact becomes a game of chicken when both people know what they're doing. Whoever breaks the silence first is seen as the one who cared more. And that matters, whether people want to admit it or not. It's not just about pride, it's about psychological leverage. The person who reaches out first gives up the emotional upper hand. So the person who waits, who stays cool, who keeps their distance, wins the power battle, at least on the surface. But here's the twist. Holding out too long can backfire. Because when both of you go silent, thinking the other will fold first, what you're actually doing is building distance. At first, it creates tension, curiosity, desire. But after a while, that tension turns into disconnect. It stops feeling like a game and starts feeling like indifference. And when that happens, the bond you had starts to fade. You forget what her voice sounds like. She stops remembering how you made her laugh. And the worst part? Nobody actually wanted to lose each other, but pride and fear killed it. Here's something most guys don't realize about women. They're emotional, but they're not irrational. They'll wait for a while if they care. They'll go through the silent tension, the sleepless nights, the emotional withdrawal. But they won't wait forever. Eventually, they start telling themselves a new story. At first, it's maybe he just needs space. Then it becomes maybe he's over me. And eventually it becomes he doesn't respect me enough to fight for me. And that's when things start to shift. Her silence turns into detachment. Her emotions start closing off. And when she's emotionally done, even if you reach out after, it's too late. That's the brutal part. You could spend weeks holding out, trying to be strong, thinking she's going to cave first, only to find out that by the time you message her, she's already erased the part of herself that still cared. And you'll know the difference. Because when a woman is emotionally detached, her energy changes completely. She's no longer curious. She's polite. She's distant. She's hard to read because there's nothing left to read. She doesn't care what you're doing, where you've been, or why you disappeared. You thought she was doing no contact? Number. She was mourning you in silence, quietly. And then she healed. And now she's done. That's when it really hurts. When you realize she stayed quiet not to play a game, but to move on. But let's flip the script for a second. Let's say she is still emotionally invested. Let's say she is doing no contact, hoping you'll be the one to break first. What do you do then? This is where you need to move smart. Because most guys go from radio silence to desperation overnight. One moment they're strong, the next they're double texting her after seeing a random meme that reminded them of her. That's not how you reconnect. That's how you erase every ounce of mystery you had left. What you need to do instead is test the waters, subtly. Not with a desperate, I miss you text, not with a long apology. You drop a small breadcrumb, something light, something that doesn't put your heart on the table, but opens the door just enough to see if she's still on the other side. Something like, hey, random question. Did you ever end up watching that show we talked about? That's it. Nothing heavy, nothing emotional. Just something that gives her a safe opportunity to respond without feeling cornered. If she answers quickly, if she engages, even if it's light, you've reopened the door. Now the power's back in your hands to decide where it goes from there. But if she doesn't respond, or worse, if she responds coldly, you now have clarity. And that's what no contact is really about. Not games, not dominance, clarity. Because silence reveals the truth. If someone misses you, they will feel your absence. If they don't, they won't. And if they do, but they're still holding back, you'll notice it in their energy. A woman who's truly indifferent doesn't keep checking your page. She doesn't bring you up to her friends. She doesn't engage with anything you post. But a woman who's doing no contact while still caring, she watches from a distance. She tries not to look like she's watching. She looks for signs that you're still thinking about her. And if you post something that suggests you've moved on, it stings, even if she never shows it. This is why you need to watch her behavior without obsessing over it. Don't check her every move. Don't stalk her online presence every hour. But pay attention to patterns. Did she randomly unfollow you after weeks of silence? That could be a reaction to something you posted. Did she go quiet after you uploaded a picture with another girl? That's not apathy. That's emotional response. People don't react to things they don't care about. So don't be fooled by her silence. Look deeper. Because sometimes silence screams louder than any words. One of the smartest moves you can make when you suspect she's also doing no contact is to keep living. Not faking happiness. Not forcing posts to make her jealous. But genuinely moving forward. Because here's what that does. It creates emotional tension. When a woman sees you're not frozen in place, when she sees you're still grounded, still calm, still doing your thing, it stirs something in her, especially if she's used to guys chasing her down the second she pulls away. You not reacting is the reaction. Your stillness becomes your message. It says, I'm not afraid to lose you if it means keeping my self-respect. But again, this doesn't mean stay silent forever. It means know when to hold the line and when to make a move. No contact was never meant to be permanent. It's meant to reset the energy, to create space for clarity. And if the connection was real, if there was genuine emotional attachment, that space can either bring someone back or expose that they were never meant to stay. The danger is assuming silence always means strength. It doesn't. Sometimes silence is fear. Sometimes it's confusion. Sometimes it's someone sitting there dying to talk to you but convincing themselves they shouldn't. And the longer that internal battle goes on, the easier it becomes to silence it completely. That's why if you wait too long, the window closes. Not because the door was locked, but because you stopped knocking. You have to remember, people have emotional limits, women especially. They're more in tune with how they feel, but they also know how to guard their hearts when they don't feel safe. If she started pulling back first, and you responded with no contact, she might interpret your silence not as strategy, but as indifference. And once a woman feels like she's the only one who cared, she starts emotionally detaching to protect herself. Not because she wants to, but because she feels like she has to. So you need to be honest with yourself. Are you doing no contact to get clarity? Or are you doing it hoping she chases you? Because if it's just a strategy to make her miss you, you've already lost the emotional frame. No contact only works when you genuinely detach and focus inward. When you stop watching the clock, stop waiting for a sign, and start leveling up as a man. That's when you become magnetic again. Not when you're counting the days, but when you've stopped needing her return to feel whole. And that's the secret most guys overlook. Real detachment isn't about pretending you don't care. It's about not needing the outcome to validate your worth. When you're grounded in that mindset, you stop reacting to her silence with panic. You stop trying to decode every small thing she does. Instead, you stay calm because you know that if she's meant to come back, she will. And if she doesn't, that tells you everything you need to know. But here's the twist. This mindset is actually what often draws her back. Because most women are used to men who either chase them or ignore them out of ego. Rarely do they meet a man who can walk away with peace, not bitterness. Now, let's go even deeper. What does it mean if she's doing no contact, not out of strength, but out of pain? This is where emotional awareness comes into play. A woman might be completely into you, completely affected by you, but still choose distance if she feels confused, disrespected, or uncertain. Her silence might be a protective mechanism, not a power move. Maybe something you said hit her the wrong way. Maybe she didn't feel secure in where she stood with you. And instead of starting an emotional conversation that might spiral, she withdrew. This is why it's so important to reflect. Not obsessively, but honestly. Think about how things ended. Were there signs she was feeling unheard? Did you dismiss her feelings? Did she start pulling back before you did? Because if she's doing no contact to heal, then chasing her isn't the solution. But neither is continuing silence forever. What she might need is a sign that you understand, a sign that you're not just waiting in silence because you're angry or trying to win, but because you respect her space and want clarity too. But clarity doesn't always come from silence. Sometimes it comes from courage, from having that one honest conversation, the one most people avoid because they're scared of the answer. But here's the truth. If you can have that conversation calmly, without ego, and she still shows zero interest or emotional response, at least now you know. You can walk away clean. No what ifs, no games, just peace. And on the flip side, if she's still emotionally involved, that honesty can reopen the door, but only if you approach it from the right emotional place. So, how do you know when it's time to reach out? There's no perfect timeline. Some people say wait 30 days. Some say wait until you've healed. But the real answer is this: reach out when you no longer need her response to feel okay, when you can send that message without attachment to the outcome. That's when your energy is right. That's when your message doesn't feel like pressure. It feels like maturity, because she'll feel it too. Women are intuitive. They can sense when a message is coming from panic or pain, and they can sense when it's coming from peace. And if she's really doing no contact too, if she's mirroring you, waiting just like you are, that message might be exactly what she's been hoping for. Because the truth is, women want to be pursued, but they don't want to be chased. There's a difference. Pursuit means intention. Chase means desperation. So when you break the silence with confidence, not clinginess, she'll feel it. And it might be all it takes to snap her out of that emotional standstill. Let me be clear though. Don't reach out with a paragraph. Don't pour your heart out in the first message. You're not writing a diary. You're opening a door. If she wants to walk through it, she will. And if she doesn't, you don't slam it. You just leave it be and move on. That's emotional control. That's what keeps your self-respect intact no matter what happens. Here's something else most men don't consider. What if her silence is strategic, not emotional? What if she's doing no contact to punish you, to make you chase, to test your value? This is where dark psychology comes in. Some women, especially those who've been hurt before, develop emotional defense systems. They use silence not as space, but as control. They want to see if you'll chase, how fast you'll break, how much you're willing to sacrifice to win them back. This isn't love, it's ego. And the more you chase in that dynamic, the more power they feel. That's when your silence becomes your shield. In those cases, doing no contact isn't just a tool, it's protection. You're not just waiting, you're watching, you're evaluating. Because love should never be about control. It should be about connection. If a woman is weaponizing silence, then breaking it early just feeds her need for control. But if you hold the line, if you stay centered, stay grounded, stay calm, she'll either drop the act and come back real, or she'll drift away because she realizes she can't manipulate you. Either way, you win, because your peace stayed intact. That's what most men miss. They think the goal is to get her back, but the real goal is to get back to yourself, to stop feeling like your worth is attached to someone else's attention. When you master that, not only do you become more attractive, you become emotionally bulletproof. You stop fearing silence. You stop fearing distance, because you know that the right person won't just disappear without a word. And if they do, that silence tells you more than any conversation ever could. So let's bring it full circle. What if she's also doing no contact with you? The answer depends entirely on the why behind the silence. Is she healing? Is she waiting? Is she playing? Or is she gone? You'll only know by watching closely, staying patient, and listening to your own emotional truth. Not your fears, not your ego, but your truth. Because sometimes the silence between two people is filled with tension. Sometimes it's filled with confusion. And sometimes it's just empty. But you'll never know unless you stay calm enough to feel the difference. The scariest part about no contact isn't the silence. It's what your mind fills the silence with. You start imagining her forgetting you, moving on, replacing you. You picture her getting that good morning text from someone else, laughing at someone else's jokes, liking someone else's photos. That mental movie plays over and over again. And every time it does, it chips away at your self-control. That's why so many guys break no contact too soon. Not because they miss her, but because they can't sit with the uncertainty. They're not texting her to reconnect. They're texting her to stop the mental pain, and that never ends well. But here's the shift. What if the uncertainty isn't your enemy? What if it's your greatest teacher? In silence, you get to see the truth about how emotionally dependent you were. You learn whether you were with her out of love or out of fear of being alone. You start noticing how much of your identity was built around her presence. And that's not a bad thing to notice. That's power. Because now, you have a chance to rebuild, not just to attract her back, but to become someone who doesn't lose himself in love. And ironically, when you do that, when you stop needing her and start focusing fully on yourself, that's when the tables turn. Because energy doesn't lie. She can feel when you've moved on emotionally, even if you haven't said a word. She'll notice when your attention disappears, when you stop viewing her stories, when you stop liking her posts, when your name stops showing up in her notifications. Her mind will do exactly what yours did. It'll start creating stories. Has he moved on? Is he seeing someone else? Does he even care? And just like that, the emotional gap flips. You become the mystery. You become the one she's thinking about before bed. You become the one she's dreaming about, but doesn't want to admit it. This is why you don't chase. Not because it's a trick, but because chasing someone who isn't chasing you is disrespecting your own value. You don't beg for attention. You don't plead for love. You become the kind of man who's so sure of his worth that he's willing to lose anyone who doesn't see it. And that's what makes you magnetic. That's what women feel. That's the emotional signature that stays with them, even in silence. Let me give you something real. There are women out there right now who are ignoring texts from guys they don't care about, but overthinking messages from guys they still can't figure out. You want to be the second guy, not by being mysterious on purpose, but by being unavailable because you're focused. You've got your goals, your body's in shape, your money's getting right, your mind is clear, your circle is solid, you're moving forward with or without her. That energy's loud, even in total silence. Now, I get it. Sometimes you're thinking, but what if I lose her for good? Let me flip that. What if holding on to her keeps you from becoming who you're supposed to be? What if chasing her ruins your peace? What if silence is the gift that finally forces you to grow into the man you've been pretending to be this whole time? That's the mindset that puts you back in control. Not of her, but of you. And when you're in control of you, she either rises to your level or she fades out. Either way, you win. And look, there's a real chance that she's doing no contact, not because she doesn't care, but because she does. She's hurt. She's waiting. She's testing to see if you'll show up different. But here's the trap. Showing up too soon, out of fear, with the same energy, just proves her right. It tells her nothing's changed. But if you wait, if you let the silence mature, if you let time do its job and allow both of you to reflect, heal, and grow, then that message, that reach out, that reconnection, it actually means something. If you're going to reach out, do it right. Be real. Be calm. Be clear. No begging, no drama, no paragraphs. Just something simple. Something honest. Like, hey, just wanted to check in. I hope you're doing okay. If she's been missing you, that's all she needs to see. If she's still emotionally attached, she'll respond. If she doesn't, you don't double text, you don't spiral, you just move forward. Because again, it's not about getting her back, it's about getting you back. And that's the key takeaway here. No contact isn't just a waiting game, it's a mirror. It shows you who you are when no one is looking, when no one is texting you, when no one is giving you attention. That version of you, that's your foundation. Build on that. Strengthen that. Because no matter how this ends, with her coming back or her fading out, you have to be strong enough either way. So what if she's also doing no contact with you? Good. Let her. Let both of you have that space. Because one of two things will happen. She'll realize your silence speaks louder than words, and she'll come back with clarity. Or you'll realize her silence was the answer, and you'll finally be free. Watch the next video.